What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCGEmpire YouTube channel. Today we are taking a look at TrashDeckThursday. If you're not sure what that is, it's where we take the deck of the week and pair it against something that might be a bad matchup for it. Doflamingo is a really solid deck. I just feel like in the late game it kind of struggles against so much removal. So what we're going to be playing today is Kaido. Now Kaido isn't a bad deck by any means. It just is a more so bad matchup for Doflamingo, as we do have things like 10-drop Kaido to kind of get rid of their whole board advantage by wiping everything. We do have King, which can get rid of the baby blocker Doflamingos. We have 1,000,001 of our own blockers and 2k counters. We have 12 blockers overall, and then we do have a ton of 2k counters. We have the 4k counters that we do play. So this list is kind of built to deal with Doflamingo. It is the list that we piloted last week on Meta Monday, but I feel like this is solid into Doflamingo. It does take some time to practice, but if you can get familiar with the matchup, then, you know, everything gets better. So, as always, thank you guys for watching today's video. If you do enjoy it, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Let me hide the webcam real quick just so you guys can see the overall list that we're working with. So it is the Kaido, 2 of the 10 drops, 3 7s. Then we do have 12 blockers, 4 Sasaki, 2 Basil Hawkins just to kind of add consistency to the Dawn, and it is a trigger, which is nice. And then we do have Babanuki, a 7k beater, 4x Drake for the 2k counters, plus it's nice to kind of belittle their hand. 3 Shiki, it is a 3k that you can play off trigger, but it also is a 2k counter. We do have 2 of the 9-drop Kaidos just for the rush effect, being able to pop a 6 block or 6 or less. You can get rid of some big blockers that way. 3 King, and then as I said, the blockers, and then the typical events, and 4 Onigashima. So again, enjoy the video. Let me know what you guys think down below, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's Final Standings Friday. Alright guys, so we are playing Kaido against Doflamingo. I think Kaido has one of the best matchups in the Doflamingo just because you can really control their board. So I think this is kind of the best bet that we can go with. Now, we are playing on the 2-4-6 curve, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to Onigashima before they can swing for 7, but it's okay. We can play the Oni and still swing for 6, which does kind of put a strain on them as they do need to, you know, kind of set up their hand advantage and things like that. And we do have a King in hand too, which is good, as well as some blockers. So this hand isn't looking too bad. There isn't really much defense we can do, but we do have the ability to kind of set up as much as we can. And depending on what they play out, we can swing for 6k on it, which means they're going to have to dump 2 cards possibly. So I don't think that that's going to be terrible for us. So we do draw a Thunder Bagua, and we are actually going to use that because now we can swing 7k on the leader and actually kind of solidify the rest of what we want to do. We could get a blocker down too, which I don't think is too bad. So that's probably honestly what we're going to go for. We're going to play down the Oni, we'll play down a blocker, we'll ramp a Dawn, and then next turn we'll be at 8, which means that we can get the King active. So he does dump a 1k in order to protect himself, which is a fine. I was kind of expecting him to do that anyways. So next turn we're looking pretty good. As I said, we have the King, which means that we can Dawn -2. We're going to be at 8 Dawn, 9 with the Onigashima, which means that we'll go back to 7. And then the following turn we'll be at 10. So we can start to kind of get some board presence going, along with, you know, some queens and some other cards to draw. So we don't have much counter potential in our hand, but at the same time it's not too bad. So let's see. So he does get down a Gecko Moira, so we do need to try and get rid of that if we can. And he does have 1 Dawn open, so he could potentially use a 1-drop blocker. So there's a 5k swing. So he's wanting us to KO because he does most likely have the Pacifista in hand. So I don't mind actually blocking this. And then, okay, so there's the Law blocker. So we can't use the Brachio Bomber in the same turn, but we can start to kind of solidify some board presence, which doesn't sound bad at all. So we're going to play the King. We use the card action. We'll go Dawn -2. And we'll just get rid of the Perona as well as the Law, just so that way he doesn't have any blockers in hand. And we can just swing 6k. This is going to force a 2k or two 1ks out of his hand, so there's a 2k. And we have a blocker as well as some 2ks in our own hand, and next turn we can also use, you know, Queen to draw some acceleration, so we're not looking too bad. We're going to be able to draw a lot of cards, and then as his hand starts to dwindle, we can start getting the attacks through. And we also have a 7k body on board, so not too bad, not too bad. I was supposed to Onigashima though last turn. I completely blanked on that, so we are going to be at 8 instead of 9. So, but that's okay. Or I'm sorry, we're going to be at 9 and then 9 with the Onigashima. So we'll still get the 10, and then hopefully we can get the 10 drop Kaido just to kind of start solidifying some board. So he's going to swing for 7k. And if he taps, he has two more 7k swings. I think I'm okay with taking the first 7k hit, just kind of force him to work through the rest of what he wants to do. And that's going to force him to swing with a blocker. Excuse me. So we will take that. So he does have a 5k swing. We'll just dump a 1k for this. And then depending on his hand and what he wants to do, okay, there's another 5k swing. Here we'll just dump a 1k again. I'm not too stressed about what he can do this turn. There's nothing too scary on a 5 curve. He can get a law back and play it down, but he is going to have to kind of start to worry about other things. And we do draw the 9 drop Kaido as well, which is good. So we can play the Queen, we can use the card action, and we draw 2 trash 1. Looking at his board, I think we're okay, honestly, to get rid of the Brachio Bomber. And then looking at the rest of this, let's see, we could go 5k. We could go 7 into 7 to force a block and then force 2 cards, which doesn't sound bad. And then we have 2 blockers as well. So I think that sounds pretty okay. I'm not going to get rid of the blocker Kuma just yet. We're just going to try and start, you know, dealing with his board, and then we'll start damaging some things. So he does let it go. So now there's 2 swings that he could possibly go through, but next turn we kind of do have a big swing with the 9 drop Kaido, as we can pop something and we have rush, so we can kind of start to wear down his board. And we do have some more blockers in hand too, and we also have 2 2k counters. So I don't feel, you know, like we're going to be in a super awkward spot. Dealing with the Kuma is going to be kind of the last thing that we do. So he does use the Brick Fist in order to put a character back into our hand. So he technically gave us a 1k back in place of a block. So we're going to have to see exactly what he wants to do. He could start putting pressure on us. Okay, so there's a 9k swing. This 9k swing, honestly, I'm going to save. And then he can do an 8k swing if he wants to. And then maybe a 7k. Or he can do a 7k and then a 6k. The 7k would force, you know, a 1k and things like that. So really just depends. So there's an 8k swing. The 8k swing we can just block. And if he chooses to swing with the blocker at our leader, okay. So yeah, we're good. So looking at this now, I think the best play that I can make is to swing. We'll go 7 first at the Gecko Moira, because if he chooses to play down the Kuma. Okay, so he chooses not to block. Interesting. So I think what my best bet here is to Queen. We can use the card action. We'll draw 2. We can trash 1. And then we can do a 8k swing. So he chooses to take, which is good. And then we can play down another blocker. So he has a smaller hand now. And we're going to just kind of work on dwindling him down. And with being at the dawn that we're at now, we can use King to kind of get rid of some blockers and then start, you know, putting on even more pressure when it comes to his life. So he is rearranging the top cards of his deck. He does have a chance to swing 7k. And depending on what he plays and things like that, I am comfortable with taking the hits. It really just depends, though, on what he decides to play off of the Doflamingo if he uses the effect. Because we do have to worry about things like Love Love Mellow, so... But what we can at least do is we can test his hand first, you know, do some 7k swings and stuff. And then if he blocks with the Bart, with the Akuma, we can actually drop the Kaido in order to KO the... Okay, so he's doing a 9k swing. Not sure where this 9k is going. We'll just get rid of one blocker. And he does play down the Gecko Moira, and with Gecko Moira he gets the Baby Law back. So we can actually kind of start to deal with his board pretty good. So there's a 6k swing. Now the 6k, the 6k we could block. So yeah, I'm fine with that. So we'll block and then just block with a queen, just so that way we're not having to worry so much about life. And then we do draw another blocker as well. So what we can do first is, let's see, we'll play the king, we'll use the card action, and then we'll go pop, pop, and then we'll go a 7k swing. Because he's going to have to dump 2 cards if he wants to really deal with this. And then we can start kind of putting some more pressure on him, and we do have the rusher too, which is good. So, and if he wants to block this, he has to dump 2 cards and only go to 2 cards in hand, which means then, you know, I'm kind of safe to start doing some future turn plays. So he does choose to block. Interesting. So we could go 7k at the Gecko Moira again. But I think what I'm going to do first is... Let's see. I clicked that wrong. I did not mean to do that. So we'll go 6k. And then honestly with this, if he plays down the Kuma from his hand, you know, he gets a 6k body down. So, but we do have a blocker, which is nice, and then that gets a card out of his hand. So I'm not too stressed. There's not much that he can really do to, you know, start dealing with our board, and we do have another blocker in our hand as well. So, and we are going to be at 10. Make sure you guys are using Onigashima if you play this. I've been misplaying a couple times and not using it, so it does make things a little bit awkward. So let's see. He has a 6k swing and then a 6k swing, so he can go 7k and he can KO our queen. So that's fine. He can KO the queen all he wants. And then this 5k swing, I'm going to use king to KO here. And then, yeah, I think we're safe to take this. And we do get a Thunderbagua too, which is nice. So we do have a 4k counter, and we do get another blocker as well. So we'll just go 8k into the Pacifista. And then we need 6 Dawn to work with, so I think we are okay right now. So we will go 7 at his 5. And then we can go blocker, blocker. We can use the Onigashima just for, you know, the fun of it. And then we need 2 open. let's see. He didn't block the 7k. So I am going to attach one Dawn just to kind of be safe. And in case he drew a 2k and has a 1k, then he can't beat it. So, and we do have 2 blocks. He only has 2 swings. We do have the Thunder Bagua as well. And we do have the 9-drop Kaido for next turn. So we're in a pretty good position right now. We did the main thing that Kaido likes to do. We're getting into the late game. We're getting rid of, you know, a lot of his board. We're making it to where, you know, he really has to decide on how he wants to play his outs. I don't think that there's really anything that he can do with this coming turn, especially with the blockers. And we do have lethal next turn, as we can, you know, swing and do a bunch of other fun things like that. So he's going to do a 9k swing. Now, the 9k swing, if he uses another 2 to bump the Black Maria back, then that leaves him with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It leaves him with 6. So then he can swing 11k. I think I'm okay to just get rid of the Black Maria. So he does use Doflamingo. Doflamingo is going to make things a little bit more awkward, but I don't think it's going to be too rough. Again, we can, you know, try and clear his board, depending on how things go. So the only awkward thing would be if he tried to swing 10k at life, because we can only block up to 10. So then we're going to have to, you know, start dealing with some not so fun things. But he is going to rearrange the top card of his deck. The top 5 cards of his deck. So we are in the late game though, which is where we like to be. So I think next turn, depending on what kind of swing he does, I think my best bet is to try to KO the Mihawk and then go from there. So there's a 10k swing. Okay, so he just swings 10k on there. So yeah, we are good to use the Thunder Bagua. Now, I think honestly we can go for lethal here. I can go for lethal, or I can try to wipe his whole board. So we could go 11k into 11k and then 7, and then kind of start to set up for next turn. I think that's probably the best thing to do. So yeah, I think we'll test his hand first. So we'll go 11k because this is going to force the 2 cards out of his hand or the block. So he lets it go, which is perfect. And then we can go for we can go double 7k. And we won't be able to get the burn, but we do have Hell's Judgment plus a blocker, which is good. So let's see. We could burn and then swing 10, and then he has to hope that those are all, or no, sorry, he has one, he has a blocker still. So I think honestly we're just going to swing for 7k, and then we'll play down our own blocker. So we'll play down a blocker and then leave 2 open for the Hell's Judgment. And then we'll just go for game next turn. We could have tried for lethal last turn with the Kaido, but it would have been a little bit more awkward considering that we wouldn't been able to do the burn. So let's see what our opponent decides to do. If he swings with leader, we have the blocker, and we also have Hell's Judgment too. Blue doesn't have any rushers at the moment, so I think we're in a pretty solid spot. So there's a 9k swing, so we'll go no blocker, we'll go Hell's Judgment, and we'll just go minus 3k, or I'm sorry, minus 3k, and then I don't remember which one he put in, but we'll just do minus 3k to one of the Doflamingos. Pretty sure it was this one, but that's fine. So we'll resolve the attack. It does have 2 Dawn open, so now we're gonna have to really, think about how we want this to go. We could play the king in order to pop one of the blockers. So I think that sounds like a pretty good play. So we'll use the king, we'll get rid of 2 Dawn, we'll just pop the blocker, and then here we can just go for a 7k. We can go for a 7k again. And then from here, we could swing 8k. And then he does have 2 swings next turn, so it might be a little bit awkward. I think honestly we just go for the 8k and see if he's baiting it. Our opponent says GG, so we did do well. We did win that game. A couple of small misplays. I'm not too familiar with Purple, but either way it was a ton of fun. So as always, if you guys did enjoy today's video, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's Final Standings Friday.